Okay, the first thing I want to do, you know what, fuck it. Okay, we're sitting here in the goddamn living room. This has been really difficult because everyone's drunk and the cameras are out of batteries. But we're having a really great conversation. Okay, everyone's not really drunk.
There's
People are
two
drinking.
socialists here and I'm drunk. Yeah, come on.
Okay, but we had a really good conversation about what happened. So I'll start with Sargon, simply because you're sitting next to me.
Thank you.
What happened today?
Not much. Disappointingly little. Well, I say disappointingly, but it was actually really gratifying to see the police actually stepping in, preventing violence from happening, and doing the job that they clearly wanted to do, that they were being prevented from doing by whatever powers that be. So yeah, I think this is the end of Antifa, frankly.
But, okay, do you think it could have... You say that the police are doing what they wanted to do, but maybe they didn't want to do this, right?
The information that I think we've been given is that the mayor of Berkeley has been telling the police to stand down. I was speaking to someone, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that the mayor of Berkeley actually threatened the police chief with his job if he didn't tell the cops to stand down.
Whoa.
Yeah, and we've seen videos of, just citizens going up to the police saying, hey, why have you stood down? And the police just looking exasperated and going, well, that's a good question. You'd have to ask the police chief. So I think, I can't imagine for a second the cops are happy with a bunch of anti-cop communists going around smashing stuff up. I imagine they actually want to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that they're quite gratified to actually be able to do their jobs. And I spoke to a bunch of the cops today, and I was friendly to them, and they were very nice people, and they seemed to be glad that they could be doing their jobs. Frankly.
There were, it's interesting. There were a few Antifa people. One guy who said, "F you, Tim Pool," and one guy was mocking me. But I'm like, this is it. When they don't have their masks on, they just simply throw insults and they keep walking. So I guess I kind of hear what you're saying, but you think that the police enforcing?
Oh yeah, certainly.
They shut them down.
Absolutely.
But you're saying it's the end of Antifa.
Yeah. Because Antifa is basically a bunch of middle-class white kids who are LARPing as revolutionaries. They're not ever actually going to fight the police. Not if they're going to go around, they're going to smash stuff up, and if the police do nothing, they'll carry on. But if the police step in, they disappear. We saw this at Ben Shapiro's thing. They didn't even turn up today. They're just,
they were there, but without masks on, they just walked around.
Yeah, they did nothing. Their power is done. The confidence they had.
It's like Samson.
Yeah, it is literally.
Cut their hair off.
Yeah, exactly. You take the masks off, they're afraid to do a damn thing.
Okay, well, so hold on. First, if we just introduce yourselves. So here, just say who you are as you start, because obviously.
I'm Lauren, but when it comes to Antifa winning, actually, it's interesting because it depends on how you look at it. Because you're saying they lost and that they're over because, they were demasked, the police were there, they couldn't get anything physically done. But Yvette Falarco, when she was doing her interview, she was saying it was a win for Antifa because, from their point of view, the new right was shut down. Milo didn't have his free speech week. He sat there for 15 minutes and talked to a crowd of 30 people and then left. So in Yvette Falarca, BAM, and Antifa's mind, they can spin it and say, oh, look, we shut down the new right. They didn't have their event, and it's all because of us.
It's just spin, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just spin. Because if you look at Yvette, how many people does she actually have around her? There's about, 12?
10?
Yeah, it was hardly any people there. She had a tiny group. Milo's group wasn't very big. There was nothing going on. Antifa didn't turn up to do the black bloc and cause trouble. It's done. When the cops are putting standing and putting their foot down, that's it. It's the end of it, and they know it. And Yvette, of course, she was spinning it, whatever way, because she's bound to do that. But it's over. I think the power's drained.
But the counterpoint, the key thing you said there. I'm sorry, this is Will.
No, go ahead.
The key thing is that you said when the cops put their foot down.
Yes.
And while the cops put their foot down in this instance, there's not necessarily reason to think they'll do it in every instance, and especially in this context, if you're one of the smart people in Antifa, however many of them there are,
probably quite a few actually.
I mean, a decent number.
Yeah,
I don't want to underestimate that.
I think a lot of them are literally socialist ideologues,
which takes a lot of IQ to get to.
Yes, absolutely. True. It's complex. Yeah.
But from their perspective, two things happened. One, the cops said they were going to come out first and spend huge money on it. Two, Milo's speech event was already canceled.
Sure.
So, not a lot of possibility for a win because the win was already in the bag, and a huge possibility for a loss, like big-time arrests like J20. So I think Antifa not showing up today doesn't really suggest that Antifa is broken or that it wouldn't show up in the future.
Antifa's power is in their presence. If they're not showing up, then they're not impressing people. They're not scaring people. Because it's all about intimidation. It's all about fear. So, and if they're not able to intimidate people because the cops are there intimidating them, who's afraid of Antifa?
Not only that though, but just 3 weeks ago there was supposed to be the Joey Gibson event, And when that got canceled, Antifa still showed up, right? They knew there was going to be police. They knew the event was even canceled. The wind was in the bag, like you said. They still showed up and they still attacked people. There were still thousands of people. So I don't know. It's hard to say. In my opinion, it's interesting to see Milo having a low turnout, Antifa having a low turnout. It's almost as if people just don't care anymore.
What's interesting is that we won't know whether or not Sargon's point is correct until tomorrow, because today we had the huge police presence and Antifa couldn't show up the way they normally do. But tomorrow Antifa plans, to have this giant rally and protest. So we'll see if they actually make a turnout.
I think if they turn up and who are they going to fight? There's going to be no one but the cops to fight.
Right, and us.
Well, yeah, and us, the people who are on the ground filming it. But if there's no one, if there's no great enemy, what are they going to do? Try and fight the cops?
Well, hold on. Like I just said, Joey Gibson's event was canceled. Who are they fighting? They just showed up and started.
I don't know anything about that one. But
so they started hitting random people.
They didn't expect it to be canceled.
No, Joey Gibson announced it was over. But I see what you're saying.
But it's because they had a date and they had everything set, and when people make plans, they just tend to show up. Hence why we're all here, because we made plans to show up at a free speech rally that literally got canceled on Saturday. Kind of Saturday.
I mean, they officially canceled it the day before the event.
No, I honestly think, I think the organization of the alt-right and Antifa is both, I guess not broken, more shattered. It still exists because they're both ideas, and you cannot destroy ideas. Ideas live on. So these people still exist, but they're not organized entities anymore. There'll be a few people who show up with MAGA hats. There'll be a few people who show up dressed as the Black Bloc, but it's not the organized things you saw, for the alt-right. It's not going to be Charlottesville. For Antifa, it's not going to be Milo's first protest, and it's not going to be the Patriots' prayer anti-protesters. It's just going to be very shattered groups.
I want to ask Sargon something specific, because we tried talking about this several times, but the camera battery died. As somebody who is more of an in-office commentator, as you watch sort of through a window, you're on here on the ground now, actually standing next to Yvette Falarka. Oh yeah. Standing next to Bam.
She was literally almost touching me. It was creepy.
How does it feel finally standing, next to the people that you?
I had a great time. I found it hilarious. I mean, you heard me laughing in the videos.
I saw you laughing. I saw you yelling at them.
Yeah, well, that was the communist going, "Oh, capitalism has killed 3 million people." I was just yelling, "Well, what about the death toll of communism? Come on."
Yeah.
If you want to talk about death tolls, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and you know exactly what happened. As soon as you start making a point about communism and you start actually stating the numbers and the facts, Yvette Falarka comes in and starts the chant, "No fascist USA," and then they all forget about you and start chanting.
Yeah, and then they marched off, but they walked off. It's okay, well, you lose then. That's they haven't got a good argument, and I think the lady who's just run off, she's got a good point. There will always be the diehards. But I think the power of Antifa is a social force that will intimidate people. I think that's done. As long as the cops continue to show that they are the authority and they actually enforce it, I don't think Antifa are going to challenge that.
I feel like I said something earlier that everyone kind of chuckled at. It started with Milo, it ended with Milo. We saw all of these free speech rallies happening because Milo's event got shut down in February, and today we see Milo finally having his event. It was not I don't think it was a legitimate event.
It was nothing.
I was gonna say something earlier that the joke is, at first we said it was a half an hour, then someone said 20 minutes, now they're 15 minutes. It's like Milo's time keeps getting lower as a way to kind of poke fun at the fact that he didn't get off his event. Yeah. But it starts with Milo, ends with Milo. We're entering the fall. It's officially fall. Springtime started this up. It went through the year. I guess I'm wondering what everybody here thinks. Is that just the arc of this year's cycle in politics, and are we now officially moving into the winter where everyone goes back inside and hides? Is it over? What comes next? I have no idea.
I don't think there's a campaigning season in the modern world. So, ancient warfare used to be based on the summer campaigning season, where everything had been sown and people would have nothing to do for 3 or 4 months. I don't think you have that in San Francisco in the modern world. I think that they're just afraid.
Yeah, I mean, we have the 2018 elections, but especially here it's blue. California is literally never going to have a Republican senator, or well, I guess there are some congressmen, but it's something that could have a Republican senator for, I don't know, decades to come. So I don't think there's going to be the passion around the 2018. So 2020, it depends on who the Democrats run, but from the current forerunners, it's not going to go well for them.
I want to add Ruckus here. You can just say. You, I feel like you've just been sitting here, and I don't want to make. You can say hi. You can say whatever you want.
Hey guys, I just want to ask if you can leave a thumbs up on this video.
Okay.
Comment. By the way, fuck all these people. What do you think? We want this to be a discussion. Leave the comments down below. Not like it's gonna help the algorithm or anything.
See, this is why it's going to be my second wife.
Ruckus?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
So.
Can they allow that anymore?
All right. Well.
I've converted to Islam, and I've joined Antifa.
I was gonna say.
I've made a lot of changes recently.
You've joined Antifa.
Yeah.
So it's official right here.
I also value women.
I've kind of always thought that you did value women.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So that's not new.
Well, I've converted to Islam, so now I don't. This is actually a front.
And Rucka's your next wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess this was just kind of a last minute. I thought it would be fun. There's a bunch of other people here, but these are the crew that wanted to come in and talk about their random thoughts, I suppose.
Saying you're drinking.
And drinking, and people are just
these are the people that were sitting here when you decided to have this interview.
right. Actually, right. No, it's true because Cassandra was in here earlier. So I guess before we go, does anybody want to say anything else before we just turn it off?
Sure. Okay. You were talking about before we kind of went off on your values for women. You were talking about the general interest of these events now. That the interest is sort of waning, and that is it because we're going into winter. I think the alt left and alt right are as strong as ever and as entrenched in their ideas as possible. But I think the actual general public is losing interest, as well as the media, because now we see these events happening and not as many people are watching the live streams, not as many people are showing up, because it's become so expected and we almost know what's going to happen. So I don't think the alt left and alt right, for example, are actually becoming less interested. I just think the general population is, and what happens when nobody cares in the news anymore about these far left and right groups. So
Yeah, I guess it's adaptation. I mean, people have become so used to it, it's no longer interesting.
I actually have a thing. I don't think it's actually a lack of public interest. I think what it is a lack of events for the public to be interested in. Because the police stepped in, Antifa refused to do anything, refused to cause any trouble. What is there for the public to grasp onto? But if Antifa had been, rioting down the streets, burning things down, smashing things up, I think a lot of people would have watched that. But it's because
For sure.
yeah, nothing
Well,
happened
I think
because they
there's
couldn't.
also been kind of an exhaustion. It's like if you compare this to pop stars, like Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, they all came up with like these ridiculous personalities and these ridiculous outfits and doing these ridiculous things trying to get attention. And at some point, people kind of got over it, and it's like, okay, well, do you have any talent to back this up? And you've noticed, like, this year they've kind of gone very quiet, and no one's albums have done as well as when they were doing these ridiculous things. Like, people are just kind of, I think, over it, and they kind of just want to move on. It's like, okay, are we going to fix it? Like, are we going to actually get into real issues?
I love the fact that you're using like Lady Gaga and Katy Perry examples, and the face of the guy that hasn't turned on a radio since 1991.
Yeah, I don't know anything about these things.
Yeah.
Let me help you out.
Yeah,
Please don't tell me.
This has been an interesting experience for me. For those that are asking, what the fuck is Rucka doing in this place? Sargon said, "Hey, we're out here. Come on up." I drove up from Los Angeles. Oh, Rucka, you like free speech? Yeah, no shit, but I don't really give a shit if anyone ever speaks at Berkeley again. Berkeley has been a shit show since before your parents were in college. Okay? They were rioting, they were fucking taking faculty members hostage back then, just like
They didn't accept my application.
They didn't accept her application. There's okay.
There's so many problems with
Berkeley,
Berkeley.
they say, "Oh, Berkeley, home of the free speech movement." It was anything but. It was always a shit show. Stop fucking glorifying the hippies of the past. These were violent, unsmart people. They are
Unsmart.
They are most
smart.
They are most disagreeable.
Dumb, but they're not quite smart.
Well,
That's a very PC way of saying it.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. Rucker makes music videos, and he should be really doing podcasts and talking to people.
you should. Well, you do.
Yeah.
You do the podcast with Maddox, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's
And
good to have a
eventually
podcast.
he's going to
There
have
you
his
go.
own science corner.
Yeah, I got my own science corner now.
Ooh,
So,
sick.
you know, get to talk about what's really going on
Oh,
out
I'm
there.
excited.
Yeah, but anyway, listen, guys. I've been out here now. I've met some of these internet celebrities. These are not smart people, okay? You think they have all the answers. They're just like you. They're getting on the internet and giving their opinion. We want to hear your opinion. Leave a comment.
Okay, all right.
What? I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
All right, leave a comment for your chance to win. How about that?
For your chance to win what?
Your chance to win.
Okay.
Fucking comment.
Chance to win. You can win a meeting with Rucka, all expenses paid trip to Los Angeles. Rucka is fronting all of it.
Yeah, but what's the win condition?
Okay, yes, for your chance to win that. Your chance.
Your chance.
Your
I'm gonna
chance.
randomly select
It's a very
somebody and
small
forward you all their
chance.
information.
And they get a chance to win.
All right. Should we keep going? You guys want to?
I actually need to go take a piss because I've been drinking.
Yeah.
I got one thing.
Drinking
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a-
Let's. Here, you go do your thing, Sargon. I'll pop
Yeah,
up in the
right.
seat and we'll see. We'll take a final thought from Will over here.
So, final thought. Milo better hope that there are no clever plaintiffs' lawyers in your audience, because he's at very serious risk for a lawsuit for fraud.
Yeah. What did he do that was fraud?
So, fraud is if you make a knowing misrepresentation, knowing that people will rely on it. They do rely on it, and there are damages. In this case, the knowing misrepresentation was that this event will happen, there will be a free speech week. That wasn't true, and it's pretty clear that he probably knew that it wasn't true 5-6 days ago, but continued to assert that it was true. And if people relied on that assertion and, bought an Airbnb or a flight to come out here, that's fraud. So, most people think of like bank fraud or something like lying to a bank, but fraud is actually a pretty expansive concept.
Well, let me ask you, and this is a leading question because I know the answer, but how would you know it's fraud?
How would I know it's fraud? Because I'm a lawyer.
Oh, there you go. So I knew you were a lawyer, and that's why I asked.
Right.
But will people actually want to sue him over this, or do they like him?
I mean, it depends, right? Like, I have, Milo has a lot of goodwill, but I find it annoying that I don't like being lied to, and most people don't like being lied to. And here's the other thing to understand. It only takes one, right? Like, when you think of a class action lawsuit, you think, oh, they need to get a group of people together to sue him, so you need a lot of people. That's actually wrong. A class action suit requires only one possible plaintiff to serve as a class representative that can then represent the entire class for everybody else. So
Yeah.
if there's a
I
single
don't-
person who doesn't like it,
But I don't see that happening. I mean, come on. Do you think people would?
you never know.
All right.
You never
guys,
know. There
small
might be
All right. Here's
a disgruntled class member right in front of your camera. You never know.
all right. So we'll leave it here, and I'll say this.
He's already writing his.
This has been we're in this Airbnb. There's a ton of people here, some attendees. Actually Cernovich was here earlier talking about some stuff, and we're having a conversation. I thought it'd be interesting to sort of just talk to people and get an open conversation about how people feel. By the time this airs, and I do this often with some videos because there's a delay in when the upload happens. There's supposed to be an Antifa event, so everything we talked about could be 100% wrong tomorrow, and who knows what's going to happen. And you're watching the past right now. So as Rucka said, comment below for your chance to win, and we'll keep the conversation going because we want to know what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to support my work, you can go to timcast.com/donate. You can follow me on Twitter @timcast. Stay tuned because live streams, breaking news. My next stop will be Catalonia, but there's still a few more interviews that will take place here because as much as the event didn't happen and Milo came only for a short while, there's still a lot of people who came in and their opinions are interesting. So we'll see what happens. But
And
thanks.
expect a diss track.
The diss track?
Tim Pool diss track.
What does that mean?
Like when you diss Jake Paul or somebody.
Oh, okay. Am I going to diss Milo?
Yeah.
Are you going to help me make that?
I'll help you.
Let's do it. Collaboration. You heard it.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll see you tomorrow.
Cool.